Hi, everybody. I have Anastasia from Macedonia here today. Hi, Anastasia.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm pretty good. Enjoying my curfew right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
so please tell me about the situation in Macedonia.
Right now I'm working at a on a project that's called electoral reforms in my country, and we monitor every restriction in my country and how what were the consequences of it. Did it work, or if it didn't work? So right now, at the moment, um, we are under curfew because we've been hit by a second wave of coronavirus cases. And our Minister of Health said that the virus is getting weaker and that they started they started doing more tests, so that's why the cases jumped. Also, he on the last press conference he said that most of the people that have been infected with the coronavirus they didn't know uh, that they were infected because they were asymptomatic. So that was the only reason why we had a second wave. Apparently, we have like a lot of asymptomatic people here, and that's why the cases are have been jumping. And because of that, people started panicking here, and they got back the curfew because I think it was 13th of March when our country locked down completely. Ever since then, we've been under a lockdown. Nobody can enter the country, nor we can like leave it. I heard that if we want to, for example, leave the country, we need to sign a deal that we won't be back in the next 3 months with the
I
government.
see. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I need to research more on that. I might be just spreading misinformation. I need to research that. Also, there have been people from, like, for example, Macedonians that have been stuck abroad. So, because of that, they had to go back home. Uh, so, because of the closing of the airports and the borders, um, they got them back. They got them back with Wizz Air, I think, and they put them in a quarantine, which is on the expense of the country. And it was a 14-day quarantine. And then afterwards, they were supposed to self isolate for 14 more days. And ever since March, we had a curfew. The curfews were different depending on the progress of the um, coronavirus cases. We also had curfews. I think like we had 48-hour curfew ish for our holidays for Easter. We had a curfew for Eid because our country has a lot of Orthodox Christians and Muslims, and they often, for example, visit the church during holidays. So that was the reason why they put the strictest curfew during the holidays. So a new so there isn't another outbreak. Right now, as I said, we're under curfew. We are the from what I've read, we are the um, last Balkan country that will probably open their borders. We still don't know whether we're going to open the borders. All of our neighbors have more or less opened the borders. Um, Also, it's kind of chaotic, some people think, but I think that by time things will settle down. We just need to like respect the restrictions that we have by the recommendations by the government. We are supposed to wear masks every time we go out, We're not supposed to sit in groups. We're supposed to social distance. Also, um, I'd like to comment on something about the second outbreak. Some people think that the second outbreak happened because the government eased the restrictions in one day. They didn't, for example, started opening the schools and then moved to the bars and then moved to something else, but they opened everything. And they didn't open the schools. So all of us are just being homeschooled right now, doing online classes. And yeah, people are panicking because nobody knows what's going to happen and nobody knows what will be the consequences. However, the most cases that we have are in the capital city. And basically, we hope that this this is going to be the last lockdown and that it's going to help. And most of the people here want the borders to open, but they are afraid that when they open, we as Macedonian citizens won't be able to travel because of our number of cases. So that's why we probably never heard anything about the border opening. And all in all, that's it. We, I think that with time, it's gonna take time until people get used to the new normal way of living. And yeah, and I also like to comment about how some people don't believe that the virus actually exists here, which is very, very ironic because the virus exists and it's out there and we don't know who is infected and anybody can be infected at any time. So that is the reason why some people didn't respect the restrictions and they started gathering, going around, which is pretty sad because most of us are disciplined, want this to go away as fast as possible. And then you have the other group of people that don't believe this, that don't believe in this, and that are not respecting the restrictions. So I think, in my opinion, this is going to last for like the whole summer. We're probably going to have like cases mm, now and then, but I truly hope that this second wave that we had is going to be the last one. And also, when it happens, when we're talking about, for example, the mental health of the people here, the government has free hotlines which you can call and talk with a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and they're available all the time. Um, Also, one thing I've noticed that really disappointed me was that I wasn't able to, for example, do a shipping to friends and family I have abroad. Um,
Oh,
yeah, the other day I asked, I called the post office here in my country and I asked them if I'm able to ship something from my town to a country in Europe. And they told me that I'm not able to, like, the what they told me was that I'm not able and I won't be able. I might be able from like 1st of June, but we still don't know. So I'll have to recall and ask whether I'll be able to ship. But I don't think so because they still haven't opened the borders.
but
So
I
yeah,
would
that
expect that
really
the post
disappointed
office
me.
would work.
I'm sorry.
I would expect that the post office would work and the post deliveries. I'm really surprised that it doesn't work.
Yeah, I'm really surprised as well. They probably don't do shipment from my country, but do shipments to my country, for example. Because the other day I received a like a mail from America, which is weird. And the mail was sent in May.
Oh,
But yeah, they're probably starting to open up to some countries, but not to everybody. Um, Also, I'm really talking a lot about the borders because it's a really passionate subject for me, especially because I travel a lot and I have a lot of friends and family that live abroad. And it's really, really destroying at some point not being able to know when I can travel to them. So that is the only reason. And that is the only reason, that is the only thing the country hasn't opened up uh, here. Like they opened up everything. They opened up restaurants, bars, casinos,
oh,
but
okay.
they didn't open the borders and schools, which is weird. But yeah. Also, my country had like a lot of donations from the European Union and from China in medical supplies. So more or less, I don't think that we have problems with getting supplies and with getting masks. And every time I go out during the free hours, I see a lot of people that wear masks, which is very good. That's very positive. I also see people that try to keep the distance, and I think people more or less are getting used to it, to this lifestyle, all in
And
all.
what about can you travel around Macedonia or you have to stay in your town?
I'm able to travel around Macedonia. However, I don't want to travel at this time because I might never my going to have interaction with, and I really try to self isolate as possible because I have in my family I have a person that is a nurse and works with corona patients. So I try to isolate as much as possible because I never know whether I'm gonna get infected or not.
Mhm.
Well, at least until this pandemic lasts, I'm gonna stay as much as possible in self isolation.
And what about
So,
your relative that is a nurse, as you said? Does she feel safe, or is she afraid of, or what does she think about the situation
well,
in her job?
mhm. So in the first months, she and her colleagues were very scared about this new virus because we didn't have that much information about the virus. And I think the whole world reacted the same way. And that's why they made even the lockdowns. Uh, so at the beginning, uh, for her, it was very hard to get used to it. But right now, it's getting better because they have less and less patients, and the virus, uh, according to them and according to some doctors here and epidemiologists, the virus is getting weaker, even though it is a very smart virus. It has like a lot of mutations. So we don't know which mutation we might get. So that's why we need to be as careful as possible because there are deadly mutations. And most of the people that die here are older. However, there is a positive to this. We have a few people that are over 80 years old and have been cured out of the virus,
That's
which is
great.
wonderful. Yeah. Uh, However, all in all, right now it's getting better. I don't know about the capital city of my town, of my country, but about my town, from what I hear, things are settling down and they have enough gear, enough supplies, and all that.
Mhm. And can you tell me, as you mentioned that there is the second wave right now, was there, does it mean that there was easing of the anti-corona measures, and then when the second wave arrived, the measures came back, or
Yeah,
did it?
yeah, the
Yeah.
measures came back, the restrictions, they all came back, especially especially in the cities where there are a lot of cases. The measures are even stricter. And here on in the rest of the cities that don't have that much cases still have some sort of measures like the curfew, but the curfews are starting from different hours in different cities. Depends on
And,
the cases.
mhm. Can you
Yeah.
tell me about the curfew in your town? How does it work there?
Um, the curfew in my town, I think it begins from 4 p.m. until 5 a.m. in the morning. And usually there is the police that goes around the town and tries to see if there is anybody going around town. If there is anybody going around town during the curfew, they get a fine of, from what I've heard on the news, 2,000 euros. A fine of
That's a
2,000
lot.
euros. Yeah. Um, and during the and when there isn't a curfew, we the police finds people that don't wear masks.
And the fine is
And
the same, or is it lower or higher?
I'm not quite sure about the number of the fine when it comes to when it's not the curfew, but I think more or less it's the same, because it's the same. The restrictions are just the restrictions are um, have the goal to end the epidemic here. So it makes sense that it's somewhere around the same.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. And
Mhm.
were there a lot of people who were losing their jobs because of the situation?
Yeah, a lot of people. For example, my country, here we don't, our employment rate is pretty high. And now after the corona lockdown, there were even more people that lost their jobs. So I think that because of the coronavirus, our GDP will go even lower next year or even this year. And there were some measures that the Ministry of Economics gave to us, but not many people were very satisfied with the measures. And there's this one thing we have in our country right now, and it's about women that work as tailors in companies. They are still forced to go to work, even though most of the outbreaks, most of the dots that happened from the corona outbreak were in these in those companies. So
Oh,
we have
why is
like a
that?
because there are a lot of women that are tailors and that are in working in these companies, because they sew like clothes, and um, there are a lot of people, and if one gets infected, a lot of people are most likely to get infected. So we have problems with them. We have problems with their bosses that tell them that whoever comes at work will get money, and that they must go to work even if they're sick, which is a very controversial thing and very unfair. But yeah, and I don't think that anybody is actually doing anything to solve this problem of these women that work. So that's why there were a lot of cases in the town of Stip, where there are a lot of companies like that. So
Mhm.
it's quite a struggle.
That is
But
because if the government says that the people should stay at home, how could the bosses force the women to go to work?
yeah,
Isn't
yeah.
it breaking
Well,
the law?
I think nobody actually of them respects the law, which is sad.
Hmm.
Yeah, and I think that's more or less what a corruption would do to those people.
Oh no.
Yeah, I think the government is, for example, focused on something else, and that's why they're not reacting to the problem of these women.
I see
So
that's quite serious, and especially when nobody is trying to solve this issue.
yeah, yeah, which is it's so it's scary in my opinion because a lot of people risk their lives there and risk the lives of their families because usually
Mm.
in Macedonia we live in smaller houses, a lot of family members, and it's most likely that if one member gets it, the rest of the family will get it because of the
Yeah.
smaller places and stuff. So yeah, I hope that they will, after the epidemic is over, the government will come up with new measures and new health packages about the companies that have gone bankrupt because of the outbreak. And I hope that they will encourage more people to start their own businesses, our so our economy grows at least a little bit, because it's going to take a long time now until we go back to the way we used to be with our, for example, with our GDP, which is sad.
Yeah.
And also, I think that the government, for example, should work on a plan on how to restart aviation, because during the summer we get a lot of tourists here, especially in Ohrid and in Skopje. And with closed borders and closed off country, I don't think that we're gonna get any tourists. Meanwhile, we really need them because they benefit the economy quite a lot.
Yeah, I know. Mhm. So it's
So
important to get tourists there.
yeah,
And if the borders are closed during the summer, that would be really a big issue.
it'll be a huge issue, um, because, for example, a lot of people have lost jobs here, so they wouldn't be able to, for example, afford a vacation even in our country, because they will try to pay the bills, pay the rent, or try to pay off their debt. And I don't think that that much people can afford
Mhm.
a
And
holiday here. So
is there any sort of help that the government would offer to these people?
the government said that they will give us certain amount of money. For example, they'll provide students in universities and high school students with certain amount of money that they need to spend on buying Macedonian products, so we can, help the economy. And also, they came up with some packages about the companies that have lost a lot of money, and I hope that those things will work out and will try to help as much as possible with the economy and with the whole situation.
Okay. Well, okay. Is there anything else you would like to talk about?
Mm, I just hope that all in all, things will be over soon, uh, and I truly hope that the what the doctors are saying is that the virus is getting weaker. I hope that that's true and that it's gonna get better. And all in all, I just have to say that this will be over and we'll need to move on, but we'll still need to get used uh, to these measures, which are like social distancing and wearing masks. Maybe until the end of the year, who knows? But I think that I'm optimistic that that soon these restrictions will be over and there will be less cases, because that's the situation right here on the Balkans. For example, I read that Slovenia is right now corona free, that they've completely ended the epidemic. Also, Serbia, Bulgaria, Greece, Albania, they don't have that much cases. So I hope that we will keep the streak of having less and less cases day by day. And I think that that's very possible. It's going to happen because even the situation is getting better, even in the countries that are most affected by the virus. So, all in all, it's going to end soon, I think.
Yeah, that's at least something positive about it.
That definitely.
Mhm.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
thank you so much because what you told me it was so interesting. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much for having me, for inviting me. I was very happy to actually talk about this because it's kind of my passion to discuss the current situation that my country is in.
Thank you so much. So, bye
Yep.
bye.
Bye.
Bye.